Hey there everyone, this is Pete. I'm going to be playing Slay the Spire, and this is one of my favorite games that I picked up when it was in pre-release and have been playing it ever since. So I'm going to be working my way with a fresh game all the way up to Ascension 20, try and explain my thoughts, try to have some fun, and really just play the game. I'm just going to get started and try and explain things for anyone that's new to it or just watching it for the first time, just to help them understand a little bit better. So with a fresh game, you have very limited options. It's going to try and go through a tutorial. We're going to start with Ironclad, and this is a character that it focuses more on using strength, vulnerability, and life, or your health as a resource, really, to get through each of its fights. So for anyone that's played Slay the Spire, normally at this point you're offered a whale bonus, and we don't see that for the first time because this is really the introduction. So I'm going to work through this as best I can with no bonus, and hopefully I can make it to the end. When I play on lower ascensions, I like to go for more elites just because it makes it a little bit more interesting for me. And I'm just going to start this path right here because it has both two elites, a campfire, two shops, gives me a decent amount of options. Everything else over here is mostly hallway fights, which gives more card selection, but I like using question marks and shops to my advantage. Okay, so fast mode, I don't like screen shake. Okay, so first fight is Cultist. Cultist will each turn that is in a fight, it'll gain 3 extra attack every turn through ritual. So if you don't take care of it fast enough, it will just quickly overwhelm. So our first card choices are Cleave, Anger, and Warcry. Cleave is a decent AoE up front. Anger is interesting just because it's an attack card that will just quickly become more and more attack cards as we move on through a fight. And then Warcry, I'm not a big fan of overall. I think I'm just going to take Anger because it's an okay and it's an attack card. Okay, so first shop already, and I see a couple things that interest me. I see Fiend Fire, which is at this point it's a good finisher. I see Inflame, which with Anger it helps quite a bit because it lets you hit more often with less energy and lets you hit a little bit harder. So I'm liking Inflame over Fiend Fire right now, so I'm going to take that. Oops, first test, Relic, Athroska, which basically the next 2 chests you open up, there's going to be 2 relics instead of 1 inside of it. We have our louses that first time you hit them, they'll curl up and have however much damage they have displayed. Okay, so Anger, when you use it, there's going to be 2 that are entered in your discard pile every time you use it. Okay, next choice. I'm favoring attacks right now just because of Gremlin Knob, and True Grit is interesting just because it helps with exhausting cards while also providing block. But I like both attack and draw, so I'm going to take Pommel Strike. Okay, so Jawworm, pretty standard enemy, really. Doesn't really have too much noticeable features. It can attack, it can block, it can gain some strength. Now we start to see some potential synergies as well as some heavier attack cards. Kinesis is good, especially when talking about elites, because it lets you hit a lot harder for less energy. And Sword Boomerang works better with Iron Flame just because it's a multi-hit, so every single one of these 3 will hit for 2 extra with Iron Flame. Right now, I tend to like Hemokinesis a lot better. Like that, and immediately I probably should have taken Sword Boomerang just based off of what we got here. But it teaches a interesting lesson. You can't always plan for one elite. You have to plan for any one of them and just make sure you can actually get through them as best as possible. Okay, so we have sentries, which their main deal is that they flood your deck with dazed, makes it harder for you to draw. One of the key benefits of anger, and makes it so that at least it's counteracted a little bit. And their other main thing is just they alternate on attacks. So typically with sentries, you want to take one of the 2 outer ones out just because of their attack patterns, and usually you want to go for the one with the lower health first, just because it's easier to take down. It makes it a little bit easier. You have less dazes going into your pile, and that's about it. Okay, for every elite, you are awarded a relic. We got Strawberry, which just gives us more max health. Okay, so we have Feel No Pain, Clothesline, and Reckless Charge. Feel No Pain's best if you have a way to exhaust already, and we don't. We did have an opportunity with Brew Grit, but we did not take it, so Feel No Pain is pretty much a dead card right now. Clothesline's a card that will buy weak. It comes at a heavier cost right now, so I'm not particularly interested in it, especially when we already have a card that does more damage than it. And then we have Reckless Charge, which it's another interesting one. It will allow you to hit 1 extra time, but we have Anger that does pretty much the same thing, except for it doesn't put a daze into our draw pile. Skip. Okay, so we have our Looter right here, and this is someone that will try to steal your gold. And once they have either a certain amount of gold, or if they get to a certain health point, they'll run away. And if they run away with your gold, you don't get it back, but if you beat them before they run away, you do get it back. So Carnage, it's interesting for elites if you're going to fight more than one. It hits hard and it can be exhausted if we really want to. Right now it just feels like it would clutter up the deck. We don't need another Anger, and we don't draw enough for Rampage to really be useful. So now we have Gremlin Knob, whose main niche is that every time you use a skill, well, after it powers up, is it will actually gain strength in order to actually hit you harder and harder each time. So you need to be strategic with how you use your skills and when you use your skills. Like right now, even though he's attacking for 6 and I can block for 5, it's not exactly worth it unless I think I can take it down in 1 or 2 turns. I also have to consider that this particular attack, it will hit me with vulnerability, so the next attack will hit me even harder. Looking at my deck, I have Bash and Pummel Strike, which will hit for 8 plus 9 plus 4. So that's 21, and 21 plus 20 with the Fire Potion. I can handle it, so I might as well reduce the damage I'm going to take. Then I didn't even factor in the strength that I had going on. Okay, so now we have Clothesline, Barricade, and Iron Wave. Barricade's interesting because it really helps with maintaining block, but it's way too slow, and at this stage it just is not helpful. So it really can only be taken at a time when you can actually spend the energy. Okay, so we have Preserved Insect and Eternal Feather, two very good relics. Eternal Feather, it takes away 25% of elite combats, which will be useful when we get to Act 2. And then we have Eternal Feather. Every time we go to Campfire, we're going to heal up. Great. We're going to take advantage of that right away and just use the time to instead upgrade a card. Okay, so I just chose Inflame because we have a lot of small attacks that can hit, and Inflame will help a lot more with making those a little bit better. Okay, so this is a potential elite fight we can take, which is one of the main reasons why taking question marks is good, because you can also get gold, you can get relics, and now there's really no point in fighting the elite because we already got the relic we would get, as well as the gold. So the most we'd only get out of that is a card selection, which isn't really worth it at this point. Okay. More louses. Okay, doing some work. Every time you do unblock damage, so that's less than 5, it'll bump it up to 5. Just didn't want to take the extra damage with Hemokinesis when I can do it for free. There's Sword Boomerang offer. I'm gonna skip it. Right, so first card removal, removing strikes for the most part because they don't do a whole lot except for attacking, and want to slowly replace my deck with basic attacks with much better attacks. Okay. Anchor is always a good relic. Can't afford the ink bottle, which would have been good. Can't. We can do card removal and do that. Okay, another heal. I feel healthy enough that I can just do another upgrade. And I think getting a little bit harder with Hemokinesis would be better. Okay, so we have the Guardian, which has a reputation for being the easiest of the Act 1 bosses. Mainly because it's method of attack is to go through cycles of hitting decently hard to being curled up when you deal a certain amount of damage to it, and then it just cycles through that, and as long as you can do enough damage to it, you don't get hit for much, if at all, depending on how your block is set up. So one thing we're seeing right now is that our block is severely lacking right now, which makes this fight a little bit harder. We cannot do enough damage to knock it down, so now we're just going to block. Now this is where I make a decision on whether I want to take it down this turn or next. Really it's about how much damage I can do now versus next turn, which really is about whether or not I can get through an extra 20 block that's going to come up. I also want to try and have more block available for when he is curled up, so we're going to try and get that set up as well. Okay, so good, ended up being good news. We're going to have most of our block there, as well as doing a lot of extra damage to it. And this is where we can actually take it down right now. Since we're not in high ascensions, we're going to heal up for full at the end of the axe, so no point in waiting it out. Okay, so boss will always give you rare card choices. And each of these have their own merits. Brutality is really good if you can get other powers that pair with it very well. Fire is just overall a good card, good finisher, and with more strength, it does even better. Just based off our deck right now, I'm liking Fiendfire better than the other two, so that's what I'm going to take. Okay, so our first boss relics are Mark of Pain, Coffee Dripper, and Calling Bell. Mark of Pain puts 2 wounds into your pile at the start of each fight. There's no way to remove them outside of fights. They're always going to be put in. But that's the main drawback for extra energy. So if you have more draw, you can counteract this pretty well. Coffee Dripper is you can only rest at rest sites. Basically, you can't gain health back. But we have both the Eternal Feather, plus we have Burning Blood that heals us at the end of each fight. And this heals us at each campfire anyway. So this is a solid choice with our current relics. And we have Calling Bell that will give us 1 extra curse that we can't remove from our deck for the rest of the game, but in return it gives us 3 relics, non-boss relics in return. I'm liking the extra energy, gives a little bit more options and allows us to play more cards with each turn. And if I can get some extra draw, it helps out better than the other 2 in my opinion. Okay, so we have Act 2, and each of the paths we can take, except for this one right here, has an elite. So it's about which one has better options. I'm liking this left-ish side so far. So I think I'm going to go this narrow path here, and like up to here start making decisions again. So here we have the Chosen, which is one enemy that will put a debuff on you that every time you play a skill, it'll put a daze into your draw pile. Another enemy that is counteracted quite a bit by something like anger and just really trying to keep your disadvantages at a minimum. Okay, so as I said before, block is lacking, and True Grit's a pretty good card just in thinning out your deck a little bit. And yeah, good one to take. Okay, so we're already seeing Anchor do quite a bit of work, because instead of having to sit here and block and doing almost no damage, we can instead focus more on attacking. Immediately followed up with a turn where we have absolutely no block. Okay, just for fun, and with Fiend Fire. Flame Barrier. Now that we have more energy, Flame Barrier is a lot more appealing than it would have been with 3 energy. On top of that, it's upgraded. I don't need another Anger, even if it is upgraded. Then both of these really weigh Iron Wave at this point. Okay, so Flame Barrier, every time I get hit, they will take 6 damage in return. Okay, and spend more time setting up. Okay, and then these Fungi Beasts are, when they die, they'll apply 2 vulnerable to me, which will just make this enemy hit a little bit harder. It needs to be planned for just to do it right. So like right now, this one will hit for 15 if I kill this, so 14, good enough. And this is where it gets more dangerous, though. And honestly, I don't want to take that much damage. We can do 10 for 2, 4, 6, 7. 70 damage. 70 is greater than 59. Okay, so we have Brutality, draw an extra card for 1 HP, Uppercut, Flex. I think it's a little late for Uppercut. Brutality, we could take it, we could manage it well, or by giving an extra card first, things like Fiend Fire, and just giving us more options. I'm gonna skip it for now. Okay, so move card, another strike. So we have a choice between taking 99 gold or the ritual deck. And this one always depends on where I am at this point. Knowing that we don't have to go to the heart, and we want to just have some heavy hitters for deep damage, and we're going to make back our health anyway. I'm going to take the dagger. And when I get a chance, I tend to want to upgrade it faster than most. Book of Stabbing. This is an enemy that will just attack, and for every time it hits you for unblocked damage, it will add a wound to your deck, which just gets a little bit annoying. Okay, I'm going to skip using the Ritual Dagger, even though I can play right now, because it only will gain extra attack if I kill the enemy with it. Now I have a choice. Do I wait to get the Ritual Dagger, or do I take 24 damage? I don't think it's worth it. I get Maw Bank, which will give me extra gold at the end of every floor until I spend some money. Power through, I always have to sit and consider for a moment because it's a lot of block, but it comes with 2 wounds which we can take out, but we also have other heavy blockers, so it's more about a question of worth it. And as it also is Thunderclap, which is AoE that partners with strength pretty well and makes it so that everything else hits a little bit harder and can extend vulnerability. Fighting, probably not as good. Okay. Not a great first turn. Okay, so this is gonna be one of the few times I'm going to just hit really hard and hope that I can get something well. I like taking out the sentry first, and then you can just slowly eat away at the mystic because it heals up for the most part, and then every so often it will try and attack you, but it really depends on what health it's at. So like right now, it's always going to be healing, but it's not going to have a chance to do it. Okay, so this pairing is always good because it gives you 5 dexterity and can give it to you permanently if you use it with this potion just right. Upgraded Pommel Strike. The other 2 just don't appeal to me. Like the extra draw. Upgraded so it's extra 2. I think I'll take it. So Toxic Egg, every skill from now on is going to be upgraded. You get 2 attacks upgraded immediately. And Matroska is no longer in play. We have Infamous Snecko, which will apply Confuse, so our cards will now be randomized between 0 and 3 cost for the rest of the combat. Okay, so far it's pretty nice, not doing anything too crazy, mostly just hitting me with tail whips and increasing vulnerability. So I'm gonna get my Ritual Dagger next turn, and I'm always gonna be able to play it and kill. Okay, too late for Rampage. Iron Wave doesn't do much, and Perfected Strike only has very specific applications that just don't work here. Now we have a Cultist plus Chosen. This is where we start to see more combinations come to effect. Usually better to take down the Cultist because it can keep on going up and up and up in power, and Chosen takes a little while to get up and running anyway. A lot more manageable to go through the Chosen than it is to go through the Cultist. Okay, so I'm avoiding using Fiend Fire even though it would bring it within lethal range next turn, just because I want to try and still use Ritual Dagger. Okay, so there we see all the days being put into my deck. A little bit extra damage as a result. And it looks like we're not getting Ritual Dagger off this time. And a bunch of cards that just don't do it. Okay, so give ourselves a little more draw. So, interesting options because we can just take these, start max HP, and then Entropic Brew, which has 3 more potions in it. Another combination is the Chosen and Birds. We didn't see the birds early on. And the gimmick of these ones is you hit them a certain amount of times and they fall to the ground. Until they fall to the ground, they take half damage. This one's a judgment call, really, on which one to go for first. It really depends on what each of them is doing. I see an opportunity to use my Ritual Dagger now, so I'm going to take it. Okay, upgraded armaments, not as appealing now because its main thing is being able to upgrade other cards while doing a bit of block. Almost our whole deck at this point is pretty much upgraded except for mostly strikes and defense. Another flame barrier. Becomes less useful now and going forward than it would be up to this point. I don't think I need a second one. And headbutt, if we want to do draw manipulation, good. We want to put certain cards to the top of our deck and then draw it. It works very well with things like Pommel Strike. I think I'll do it. Okay, and at this point, upgrade Anger just to give it a little bit extra. Then we have the Champ, who is just a big tank, really, and he will throughout. Assuming it's a he, will throughout this fight will gain various buffs of either Italicize or Strength, really just to hit you harder or to defend as you're trying to hit him hard. And he also has a split right at just below 210 that he'll do a purge of all debuffs and will gain quite a bit of strength and then use his execute attack, which is basically 2 very large attacks that, if you have vulnerability, will make it hurt quite a bit. So I'm going to be very careful about when I'm going to actually trigger that, and then hopefully we can get through this. And at this point, I'm almost scared enough that I want to start applying potions, so I'm thinking about that. I think I'm good for the moment, though. So, I think I want to put... Okay, so we're pretty much as close as we can get before the power-up turn. Really just trying to prepare for that. Now, this is interesting. I think I'm gonna give that a try. So, at this point, I'm just compensating for a slow start with more potion things. Hoping we can get through it. So here's an execute attack, 24 twice. Both times it could easily take us down. Probably will. Five. Not quite enough to get us there. So, first one ends here, which is unfortunate, but that's just the way things go sometimes. Okay, new level. Good. Get some extra cards, ones that are actually very good for the Ironclad. And then we should also get the Silence. So that's what we're going to play next. I'm going to cycle through each character, and really just try and catch up with any of the ones I miss. Once I get through each one, take it from there. So, that about does it for this one. Hope you keep watching. Hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.